Welcome to my Primary Languages CPD series Part 10, all about Spanish. My name's Claire Seckham and I'm a languages teacher and independent consultant. You can read more about what I have to say about primary languages on my blog, which is called Changing Phase. Any resources that I show you, you will find on my website, which is called Lightbulb Languages. So our big question is, what do I need to know about Spanish? In other words, what does a teacher, especially a non-specialist teacher of Spanish, need to know about the language to help them to put it into context for themselves and for their learners? Spanish is spoken in 20 countries across Europe, the Americas and Africa, and those countries are shown in red on this map. They are Mexico, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, Panama, Cuba, the Dominican Republic, Argentina, Bolivia, Chile, Colombia, Ecuador, Paraguay, Peru, Uruguay, Venezuela, Equatorial Guinea, and of course Spain. There is also a significant number of Spanish speakers in the USA, which is why the USA is shaded pink on this map. As of 2025, there are about 591 million native speakers of Spanish, meaning that it is the second largest mother tongue after Mandarin Chinese. There are an estimated 636 million speakers of Spanish worldwide, making it the fourth most spoken language overall after English, Mandarin and Hindustani. Mexico is the country with the highest number of Spanish speakers, with over 130 million. Next comes the USA with about 65 million, Colombia with about 53 million, and then Spain with about 49 million. For these reasons, it's important that when we're teaching Spanish, that we're not Eurocentric and that we bring in the other Spanish-speaking countries whenever and wherever we can. All the Hispanophone or Spanish-speaking countries provide us with rich cultures that we can incorporate into our lessons. There are some differences between the Spanish spoken in Spain and the Spanish spoken in the Americas. There are some differences in accent. For example, the letter Z is pronounced as an S and not as a TH sound. And sometimes vocabulary is different, similar to the differences between British English and American English. For example, the Spanish word for a car is coche, while in the Americas, car is carro or auto. In Spain, a carro is a shopping trolley. So why is Spanish spoken so widely in the Americas? In 1492, the Reyes Católicos, the Catholic monarchs, Ferdinand II of Aragon and Isabella I of Castile, who had married in 1469, united all of the kingdoms of Spain. They agreed to fund the first voyage of Christopher Columbus, who believed that he could sail west to reach India instead of going east as was usual at the time. That Columbus then discovered the Americas is well documented and is often taught in primary schools. With the move towards decolonizing the curriculum, it's important that we're also aware of the indigenous peoples who lived in America in pre-Columbian times, such as the Aztecs, the Incas, and the Maya. They were mostly wiped out very cruelly by the Spanish invaders, and Spain became very rich and powerful as a result. It's important that children are aware that it was not a peaceful conquest, but we will have to choose very carefully how we tell our classes about it. Spanish rule, and therefore the language, was enforced across the land that was captured by Spain. The indigenous population had to speak Spanish in order to be able to interact with the Spaniards, and therefore in order to survive. The American countries of the Spanish Empire began to gain their independence in the early 19th century, often through long-running wars and conflict. Spanish, of course, originated in Spain. Spain is part of the landmass called the Iberian Peninsula, which also includes Portugal. The Iberian Peninsula was part of the Roman Empire for more than 600 years. The Roman conquest began in 218 BC and was finally completed by Emperor Augustus in 19 BC. The Romans named the land Hispania, from where we get the name Spain and its Spanish equivalent España, as well as the adjective Hispanic, which we use to refer to Spain or to Spanish-speaking countries, especially those in the Americas. Roman law was established in Hispania, an infrastructure of roads and bridges was built, and the area had a healthy trade with the rest of the empire. Latin was the official language of Hispania for more than 600 years. By the time of the decline and fall of the Roman Empire in the 5th century, nearly all the population spoke the common form of Latin called Vulgar Latin, which was to develop and become the Spanish language that we know today. About 75% of the Spanish language is of Latin origin. Spanish is a Romance language, named because of its roots in Latin. The 5 most spoken Romance languages are Spanish, Portuguese, French, Italian, and Romanian. England was also part of the Roman Empire, and about half of the words that we use in English have their origins in Latin. This is why we often see links between Spanish words and English words. A Spanish word which looks very similar to an English word, or the same as that English word, and means the same, is called a cognate. Occasionally, we find words which look like English words but mean something different, and these are called false cognates or false friends. For example, colegio looks like the word college but actually means school. The Key Stage 2 programme of study for foreign languages requires us to examine the vocabulary and grammar that we teach and how these differ from or are similar to English. Often we can see links between Spanish and English vocabulary, which helps us to remember the Spanish words and to build our English vocabulary. For example, recreo in Spanish is the word for break time at school, and this links also to the English word recreation. Modern Spain includes the mainland, the Balearic Islands in the Mediterranean, and the Canary Islands. The Canary Islands are in fact a considerable distance from the mainland off the coast of Western Africa and nearer to Morocco than to Spain. Because of the geographical distance, the Canary Islands are often placed in a box on the map to keep the scale of the map of the mainland reasonable. Spain also has 2 autonomous cities in North Africa, bordering with Morocco, called Ceuta and Melilla. They've been part of Spain since the 15th and 17th centuries. Spanish is spoken across all parts of the country. However, there are also some regional languages that have co-official status with Spanish. Catalan is spoken by about 9 million people in the east of the country and the Balearic Islands. There are also some Catalan speakers over the Pyrenees in France. The Basque language, or Euskara, is spoken in a small area in the north of the country, known in English as the Basque Country, by about 800,000 people. Basque is known as a language isolate because it's unrelated to any other languages. There are also some Basque speakers over the Pyrenees in France. A third regional language, Galician or Gallego, is spoken in the west of Spain in parts of the country that border Portugal. Many Spaniards are therefore bilingual, speaking Spanish or Español and another regional language. The regional languages are also used and taught in schools in those areas. In Spain, the word castellano, Castilian, is very often used instead of Español to refer to the language. Catalan, Basque and Galician are all Spanish because they come from Spain, but they are not the main Spanish language. Therefore, if you are of Spanish nationality, Español, you will speak one or more of the Spanish languages, Castellano, Catalan, Galician and Basque. I said earlier that about 75% of the Spanish language comes from Latin due to the Iberian Peninsula being part of the Roman Empire. In the year 711, Spain was invaded once more, this time from the south, via what is now called the Straits of Gibraltar, by Arabic-speaking Muslims from North Africa. Their influence, religion, and language spread through much of Spain. Their architecture can still be seen in many parts of the country, and the most famous is probably the Alhambra in Granada. Their conquest finally ended nearly 800 years later in 1492 with the fall of the Emirate of Granada to Ferdinand and Isabella. Nowadays, about 8% of the Spanish language, some 4,000 words, come from Arabic. Many of the words are to do with food, items in the household, and administration. Here are some examples. Aceite means oil, and from there we get aceituna, which is the word for an olive. Azúcar is sugar. Arroz is rice. Naranja is orange, both the fruit and the colour. Azafrán is saffron. Algodón is cotton. Alfombra is a carpet or a rug. Alcalde is a mayor of a place. Aldea is a village. You can probably guess that álgebra is algebra, and some other mathematical words too, like algoritmo, or an algorithm, and cifra, the word for a digit, also come from Arabic. The prefix al means the in Arabic, and this has been adopted into many of the Spanish nouns, as you can see here. If you teach Spanish and have Arabic speakers in your class, they may well notice some links between Arabic and Spanish. We will delve further into primary languages in the next videos.